Hi. It's the mental illness in it. What do I want to talk about today? Hi pals, it is me, RT, they them pronouns only. Thank you very much. I'm at like some weird space mentally when it comes to creative projects and passions at the moment, and I just feel like I need to talk about it somewhere. I have kind of talked about it in parts with friends, in private, in some of my like support groups, sometimes in therapy, things like that. But like generally I am just sort of at a point where I don't know what I want to do or what to do, and it's mostly down to just ableism in pretty much every workplace and career path I am interested in. Like the reason why I started doing all these kind of things at home, you know, YouTube, blogging, freelance writing, editing, those sorts of things, like besides the fact that I do really love and enjoy doing it, is that it was the hope of kind of being in charge of my own shit, being in charge of what I made and wanted to put out and talk about, as well as like spreading awareness for the trans, queer, multiply disabled bullshit that I deal with on the reg, but also talking about and showing off things that I just really enjoy, like books and media and art, crafting, you know, all kinds of shit. Like I love talking about so many broad topics, and I know that that makes me not marketable for a lot of basic SEO type shit, because everywhere will say find a niche, but like I don't fucking want to. Besides the fact that I have ADHD and have such a broad selection of general interests that expand and change, and you know, so often I talk about a lot of the different hobbies I've had in my lifetime in my ADHD graveyard video. Like besides that, like I'm not just trans, or I'm not just bi or queer, I'm not just disabled, or I'm not just neurodivergent, you know, those kinds of things. I am not and never wanted to be a channel or a personality of one aspect of myself. I think I kind of went into it a little bit in my last book video, where I talk through all of these different books that have kind of like helped me with my inner child and all that hippie shit. But basically, like, I have spent my entire life feeling like I am too much to be anything I wanted to be, or I was not the right kind of this, that, or the other in every aspect of my existence. My like personal relationships, working relationships, in jobs that I was interested in pursuing, and there are always just so many aspects of ableism in one way or another in everything I want to try and pursue, that it kind of leaves me being very stereotypical ADHD, jack of all trades, master of none.
Although it's better than master of one.
But it does kind of leave me with this feeling and sensation of like, I don't know what I am doing or what I want to do. I absolutely love the excitement of being able to do and try loads of different things as and when they come up. Like I feel like I've accidentally stumbled towards kind of like a speaker kind of possibility as a scenario for working, which would be really cool to add into other stuff too. But like, there's no one singular way of marketing myself, and that is exhausting for a start. It's exhausting having to market different sections of yourself to different things. It's exhausting having never had the right kinds of experience for jobs anymore, like traditional jobs, because of being chronically ill. And you know, we have literally been in this pandemic for over 2 years now. I'm on multiple immunosuppressants. I am immunocompromised, I have been shielding, and there are still just not the opportunities available for a lot of people in my position in the fields I want to go into. I want to add in here, editing RT, hello. that since I filmed this video, I have been seeing more remote opportunities coming up that I think I would be really good at. But again, unfortunately, it's one of those things of like, everybody else who isn't chronically ill or disabled or neurodivergent is getting these roles instead of me. Probably. Like, this is my assumption, because they've been able to go and get the experience that I haven't been able to get, even though I am qualified for pretty much all of these different jobs that I've been applying for. And some of them are as small as like tiny social media roles of like maybe an hour a week that I'm being passed up for because I don't have the right experience. And then other roles that are coming up are like part-time roles, fully or mostly remote, in fields I didn't necessarily think or want to go into or know would be a thing or available. But applying for jobs is really hard. Writing and cover letters is really hard. It takes so much time and energy, which I have much less of than non-disabled neurotypical people. And it's just really tiring that even these like perfect jobs for me that pop up, I'm still not getting the opportunities to try or attempt to be able to prove myself, my skills and my abilities. I'm just, yeah, tired. And the longer we go on, the more of these opportunities that kind of did start to verge into the online realm are being taken away again. And you know, and I've also fallen in love with making art again, because you know, it's something I can do in my spare time completely alone whilst listening to audiobooks or podcasts or watching TV and films and things like that. Like, that's a really healing and I don't know, like a welcome break for me as and when I have the ability to do that. But it's the next bit after that of like, okay, submitting the work to places or submitting myself to these kind of residencies and stuff, and selling things. I hate customer service and I hate selling and I hate speaking to people. And that's just the honest truth. It's always been a struggle. We are not where we need to be when it comes to working with different communication styles. Maybe in like a decade's time, maybe we'll be a bit closer to that. But like, a lot of the things that I've spent years training in or years training myself in, I didn't and don't or haven't had the right kind of support to really understand when and how to make a lot of these next steps or like applications. Like I've said it
fucking hell.
I've said it like several times, I'm sure, that like my first love was art and drawing and painting, but I then just kind of shifted into performing arts. So I left all of my like creative visual art stuff behind. I never accessed a lot of the training that teenagers get or support that teenagers get for that. So looking into specifically art-centered opportunities now is just like a whole new world. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I put in for my first like art call recently and I was just making shit up, dude. I was filling that thing in the day before it was due. No idea what I was doing. And then when it came to things like performing arts, but particularly acting side of things, and singing, to be honest, the acting and music stuff, again, I wasn't getting the right kind of support that I needed to know what to do when I became an adult, because during that period of time was before I knew I was trans, before I knew I was multiply disabled and neurodivergent. I struggled so much with memorizing lines and things like that, and I have like really horrific stage fright around singing in public, which sounds mad because I have done all sorts of really bizarre things in front of people, in front of audiences, big audiences, in different kinds of venues. But when it came to singing was just like the one thing that really scared the shit out of me. And with both of these things, I'm sort of in a point where I'm like, wow, it would be really sick if I could go off and go into acting or go off and into making music. But where do you start when you're a fucking 27-and-a-half-year-old non-binary weirdo with like 4 skills? Like, I can't read music, I cannot write music, I don't know any of that shit. I'm kind of like the wordsmith, sort of, maybe. And I haven't had singing training in years, and I feel like my singing muscles have weakened, which happens. But then I'm like, if I really want to go and pursue that, I would need to be putting money into this by going back into like vocal training. And then the thought of doing vocal training via Zoom at home with everybody here makes me want to fucking die. Also the money, do not have that. Finding people to create the music with as well is just like another one of those things where you're just like, I don't even know how I would go about doing that, and I have so much like self-esteem and embarrassment issues relating to like, I don't know how you just jam and riff when you're a singer. I can't play any instruments, but like it's still one of those kind of crazy dreams of like, wow, imagine being in a band. I could be the musician I always wished I could have seen kind of vibes. Or if I went into sort of the performing arts aspect of singing, like if I wanted to do musical theatre, but then it kind of all comes under the same thing of like, I am trans non-binary. You need to put in a lot of money for like the training. You need to do acting workshops more, the specialised acting workshops, get all the right photos done, which are very expensive. And then that leads me into like being chronically ill and on and off fucking steroids all the time. My face has changed so much in a year. Like, I probably would have needed 4 sets of fucking photos this 1 year alone, because my face was skinny, then puffed, and then skinny, and then puffed, and skinny, you know. Like, I look so different to what I looked like this time last year, just because of, like, the amount of steroids I'm on. And then, of course, my hair changes length quite a lot. So do I need, like, a selection of photos of my hair at different lengths? Like, I don't fucking know, man. And it's all those very confusing aspects of, like, where do you start when the industries, because it's not just the one, all of them kind of suck, not gonna lie. Like, nowhere have I ever felt particularly accepted as a multiply disabled trans person. The industries are still not really catching up. There are some agencies coming out for like acting for disabled and neurodivergent actors, which is great, but also they don't include the trans part. I don't know what to do. And like, if you want to put together a reel, that's money. You have to write or pay for someone to write the scenes, get people in together to do the scenes with you and film it all. Otherwise you need to try and get into like some student films, and again, like basically no student or like indie or amateur films or productions are really looking for people who look like me. Like, when they look for leading lady, it is not someone who looks like me. When they're looking for a leading man, it is not someone who looks like me. Even though I live near Brighton, which is supposed to be queer central, it doesn't feel like a queer haven anymore. Like, there aren't the opportunities for people who look like me, and I have no problem playing cis characters. That's not the issue. And then with all of those things too, it's always still the COVID risk generally, which I'm just not willing to do. I'm not willing to risk that. So much on the line all the time. And I sort of started writing a Twitter thread about this because there's a couple of people I follow who definitely talk about similar kind of feelings of like, hey, people just don't fucking like me. People just don't like me. I'm just not super likable. I'm non-binary or trans too and disabled, and people just constantly don't want to believe me, don't want to help me, those kinds of things. And like seeing these other people talk about that has helped me a lot, helps me identify some of those feelings. And I just feel like, you know, there's so much more at risk for me that if I did decide I wanted to go down this one particular route and put all this money into it, you know, like for example, if I went with the acting, I put all the money into headshots, into going to classes again and training and getting a reel and all these things, for it to just turn out to be a constant ableist, fatphobic, transphobic battle all the time. And like I feel like there's such a hard divide in the UK and US like TV and film scene that the UK have more like normal looking people on TV, so you don't have to be absolutely fucking ridiculously like good looking and skinny and all that sort of thing to be in a lot of British TV and film. But America has so much more queer shit going on. Like they have so much more like trans and disabled stuff going on. Whereas over here, like, yeah, some of the characters will be queer or trans, but they're never the mains, or they're rarely the mains. And it's just the idea of putting all that time, energy and money into something again, because I've done this before. I have put a lot of time and energy and money into these hobbies in the past to just sort of be disenfranchised from it in the end, because the transparency was not there or not thought about in the right way by the people training and supporting me. Because we had no conversations about disability or being trans when it came to acting or any of these other things that I have an interest in going into. And even with writing, a lot of like actual job roles require such high work hours, require you to be in the office still, require so much from the application process. And if you want to go down sort of like the actual like novel writing side of things, novels are still not being picked up by marginalised writers. They're still being picked up by less marginalised writers about the marginalised characters and stuff like that. And also nobody's making any money. Nobody's making any money in the novel writing side of things. And it's just like, I feel like there's sort of like missing steps between the interest and skill I have and actually entering the door, because it's not really talked about much. And like every time I attend some kind of online conference or workshop or talk that's supposed to be inclusive of disabled and trans people, they also don't have any answers. I feel like I never get any of my questions answered. Nobody has anything to say about how to work through this stuff. And all of this can also just be copied and pasted onto further education too. Like I had this absolute fucking dream of going to Cork for a couple of years and studying a creative writing masters, and like just, you know, living my best fucking life there, doing all that shit. But then obviously with COVID, it's a lot of money because of Brexit. Even though, you know, it's because it's the Republic of Ireland. They're technically the EU, I'm not, so I might end up being like charged so much money, more than it would cost for me to just go back to uni in London. At least there I could get like 10 to 20% off, you know, like for being alumni, with no real assurance that I will be taken care of and looked after as a disabled student. Like I just could not access the information I needed either. I think my last email to them just went completely unanswered. There were all these extra costs as well that would come from me being disabled and needing to like transport my medications to me in a special way and get my blood tests done at minimum if I wasn't super sick or flaring or whatever. And like, I've always kind of been someone who just gives stuff a go.
As I've spoken about in the past, I'm an ideas person. Like, I have a million and one ideas, but getting it out there and into people's hands and following ideas all the way through has been probably my biggest personal goal and challenge. I have so many ideas and so many different things I want to do, and I don't want to limit myself. I want to try and do all of them, or as many of them as I can, and just pursue them and see where they lead, because ultimately I do find true happiness is when you follow your passionate breadcrumbs in life. I've just been kind of trying to steer my life led by those breadcrumbs and just removing as many limiting beliefs as possible in terms of what I can and can't do, what's reasonable, what's not reasonable, and just have the belief that there's a lot of things that I can't actually do. So I've spoken to a lot of people that I find inspiring for different reasons, whether they look like they're living a really happy life or they're doing really cool career stuff. The common thread I've seen with them all is that they're doing something that they're passionate about, that they've followed the passion breadcrumbs in life. Steer my life that way as well, because I want a really fulfilled and purposeful life that's personal to me, and to be disciplined with myself. And keeping on the breadcrumb trail for like the last 2 years only makes me excited to keep doing that. Definitely a proof of concept person. You know, if I try something and it really works, then I'm way more motivated to kind of trust myself. And I think it's a good intuition and building life exercise, is to kind of trust your gut, trust where your passions are leading you. If you're feeling really directionless at the moment, or really stuck or uninspired, passion for what you do, whether it be inside or outside of work, I think is such a driving life energy force. Like, it pushes everything forward. Also, when I'm having these conversations, I'm having them with myself. I'm filming them, but it's not like you have to take this advice. It's more just like my own internal dialogue, as if I'm giving the advice back to myself. I guess that's today's tip. Follow the breadcrumbs.
But the pandemic and having Takayasu's particularly, but I mean also Crohn's too. And I also feel like now finding out I have ADHD and autism, I've kind of changed the point of view, especially as a 27-and-a-half-year-old. I'm no longer a teenager or in my early 20s where I can just go, yeah, fuck it, I got shit, like, you know, I know I have time, but like, there is just also a general like instability for everybody that I can't even work out which direction to go in for any kind of security. Like, I have run out of ideas. I don't know what to do with myself anymore. Being sick and disabled does mean that I can't really just up and leave this area permanently. And I just already don't have the money to be putting into these things, to just find out that there are just so many obstacles still in the way 10 years later. Like, it was bad enough when I was studying a lot of these things 10-ish or more years ago, 5 years ago with my creative writing degree. Like, whilst I can now see more representation for people like me, I can also see how many strings are attached to each one, and how many how many conditions there are for every single thing. And kind of just the amount of shit that you're just expected to put up with all the time if you want to live your dream, whatever the dream is. But yeah, basically at the moment I'm just kind of lost and feel really disenfranchised from... I need to just double check that that's definitely the word I want to be using. I mean, I guess so. To deprive of a franchise, of a legal right, or of some privilege or immunity. Like, I just feel that whole too many marginalizations thing just so heavily leaning on me all the time. That I'm trying to just start having these conversations with people, or and writing about it with for people. Like, the idea of like, yeah, I do live this complicated experience where I always feel like a walking contradiction all the time. One of the most obvious contradictions is being ADHD autistic. They kind of conflict quite a lot if you like look at them side by side. You know, as my double Libra self, Libra moon, Libra sun self, I do not want to make a decision ever in my life. I don't have a gender. Just decided not to have one, you know? I just don't feel like I have one, so I don't have a gender. I don't have a preference for romantic or sexual partners when it comes to gender, so I just don't pick. Like, I make a joke of it, but it really feels like everything wants you to make choices that just impact the rest of your existence, rather than taking up opportunities that maybe you'd never have considered. And like the other thing that I just feel like so many fucking courses in the creative field just don't do is like introducing you to the ideas of other jobs. I remember having these having that as I can't think what it's fucking called, like as a not project but like some kind of homework at some point for other things to find jobs that maybe are in the creative industry that you would be interested in doing as well. It's like, okay, how? Like there are so many jobs that I didn't know existed and still find out about down the line where I'm like, well, why couldn't I have done that? But I've missed the opportunities for training, I've missed the opportunities for applications or building portfolios for those sorts of things because no education source really puts in the effort to help introduce the creative students to actual legitimate jobs. Like something that I was really cool was once at my university we had a talk from a guy who works in video game narratives. I learned fuck all from that. I learned absolute fuck all from that talk. I learned fuck all from that talk. I have no idea how you're supposed to get into writing for video games. But it was dangled in front of me like, oh, this will be a cool job, but we're not going to tell you how to do it. And it's all the kind of like seedy and sly ways where they say, yeah, we really encourage the gays and the crips and, you know, whoever else who's marginalised to come and apply to the job. We really encourage it because representation and diversity. But then they have a bunch of stuff that actually prevents most of us from applying or doing the job. Like the number of jobs that have crazy hours and no pay, like no or very little pay. How is someone supposed to live off of that for 42 plus hours a week? Or like a lot of the seedy things that you see of like, oh, but you still have to be able to lift this up and, you know, other physical exertion, which like who would actually be doing that in an office, which just so disabled people do not qualify. And then like the endless amounts of like form filling and time it takes, and the fact that they actually don't listen to you if you do get into the role or into an interview when you say things like, hey, that's kind of transphobic, or like, hey, that's really kind of ableist and not very accessible. And I'm just so tired. I'm just so tired. I don't know what to do. I don't qualify for like 90% of the disability assistance in the UK. I just feel like I'm running on some hamster wheel to nowhere, where I don't feel like people are listening to what I'm saying. I don't feel like people are invested in what I have to say because I'm not relatable enough, because I'm
too complicated and too much all the time.
And that it's constantly having to cut parts of myself out into other people, which led me to actually having a fractured personality in the past from the amount of like trauma that just comes from being told that you're too much as you are as a whole person. And I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do anymore. Like at the moment, I would settle for like a job that's not that hard, not many hours, very flexible, that I can just do at home, so that I'm at least earning some money that I could maybe put towards one of these ideas or things. You know, I would just like a simple job that requires next to no brain power to just do for like maybe 10 hours a week or something. But like, they either only exist for non-disabled people, or they are so competitive among disabled people because there's so many of us who want something like that. Because like I've run out of gas. I don't know what to do. And whilst I love making this kind of content and stuff online and writing and all that about these struggles, it's also really shitty seeing statistics based on your actual whole being. Like, no matter what I do, Obviously I'm not going to please everybody, and that's fine. That's not really the issue. The issue is everyone has some kind of like bias that they have not analysed yet, that, tragedy gets the most clicks and likes because people love tragedy, but not long-term tragedy. They start to like forget and not care anymore when you aren't fixed again in like a few weeks' time. There's just like no leeway with any of these things. It's always like a balancing act of, hey, am I just going to be too much of this or too much of that again for everybody here? And like, it bothers me seeing the numbers vary so much, because it's not like I hide any of these aspects of myself. It is all out there that I am trans, non-binary, queer, bi, multiply disabled, neurodivergent, rare diseases, autoimmune conditions, that's all out there. But it seems to impact like my following every time I make a slight like adjustment to what I may be posting about recently, and it's just very tiring. The thing is, I know that people read me as like just an asshole all the time, and like, I will agree, I am and can be an asshole, because I'm just so tired of putting in so much work all the time and then just never really getting anything back from it 99% of the time. Because like, yeah, I have all this experience of all these different things that show, yeah, I am qualified and do have skills in these areas, but nobody asks, nobody wants to know. You have to prove it like off the cuff now. You can't say, hey, yeah, look at these things I've been doing for the last 20 years of my life. It's like, no, come up with like the perfect thing right now, or we will not hire you kinds of vibes. And I don't want to come off as someone who's just like moaning and whining, but I think what I'm saying is relatively valid when basically everything that I'm saying is a systemic problem. Like, I'm not just moaning to moan, I'm moaning because I'm constantly coming up against systemic barriers that even other people like me can't or won't help me like deal with, face, combat, work around or through. And I just don't really know what to do anymore. I don't know what path I want to go down. I don't know what path is like most reasonable to try to go down either for my well-being mentally and physically. And like with everything that's going on in the UK and the world generally, it's tough just existing. And I would just like some security and some financial gain, even in like a small amount, just to feel like I have a tiny ounce of control over what's going on in my life. Because there are so many things I wish I could do and work, and like people I could work with. Like, I really wish I could work with scientists to talk about some of the things that I go through and have been going through, to like actually get some studies in areas that patients want them to be in. But I don't know those people. I was failed in school when it came to like education, so I never got to realise I could become a fucking scientist and do all the cool shit. But also, that's really ableist too. I know some people who do a lot of research in different kinds of fields, and that's really ableist for them to like all their shit that they've had to go through and deal with.
Like, there's just no winning.
I'm just tired. I'm just tired of all of it. I just would like a break, and I would just like someone to, I don't know, I was going to say pay me to write emails, but never mind, I'm autistic. Everyone thinks I'm being angry, and nobody understands what my emails say for like no fucking reason, you know? Like, I'm just very frustrated that it's just the same problems, rinse and repeat. And I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to do. And like, I don't want to be coming off as ungrateful or like some privileged idiot, because I know I have a lot of privilege from being white, being like straight-sized, having the privilege of a supportive family who do not force me to work or to pay for things, who take care of me. You know, I do have a lot of those privileges, and I just feel like if I can't break in to these, I don't know, industries or, you know, any of these things, how do other people who have less privilege than I do? Because like that's where it sort of like gets me down the most, is that I can see it's not just me, but it can kind of feel like it's just me, because people are punished for talking about stuff. People are punished for feeling this way. The reason I struggle to understand why maybe my work doesn't do that well is because I really like to see all kinds of different people. Like, I follow such a diverse set of people online or across different platforms who have different like main focuses and stuff, who are multiply marginalized, some who are not. And I just love seeing and learning what other people do and what other people's lives are like. And, you know, and I just wonder what it's like to not care to see diversity in any media. Like, I cannot relate to that, and it just kind of sucks, you know. So yeah, I don't know when or if this will be posted, but I definitely needed to say all that because I have been having an emotionally dysregulated wobbly all week with quite severe ups and downs, sometimes with reason, sometimes without. I just needed to get some of this verbally off of my chest because that helps me. And who knows, maybe there'll be some people who find this video either who relate to me or have some advice or know some people that can make some suggestions or whatever. Like, there are some things I am planning on doing that do not involve forking out a shit ton of money, but a lot of it has had to be postponed because of my ill health in it. So we just wait, and whilst we wait, the world continues to suck so much. But yeah, leave a like on the video, it helps with the algo. Feel free to leave a comment if you relate or if you sympathise. And yeah, I'd definitely leave a comment if you have any advice or know of any like free or cheap training that would be beneficial, experience, or places looking for people to work and freelance, you know, just like drop everything in the comments, please. I need help, other people might need some help, that you may know some things that will benefit people, and also again helps with the algo. Hopefully I will have reached 500 subscribers by mid-May, because that was when I reached 400 subscribers in 2021. It'd be cool if I gained 100 subscribers in a year. That would be pretty sick, you know. I want to include that bit in there because that's like maybe the one thing that's been positive recently, is watching some of the growth and traffic of my blog and YouTube channel. So just want to say we made it 500. I'll see you next week. Bye.